kwamba wewe unastahili. Ni asante kwa sababu ya fadhili zako, wema wako na utukufu wako. Ni asante kwa sababu ya upendo wako mkuu, mfalme ushaye milele. Tunajikabidhi mikononi mwako tukijua kwamba umo mahali pako tutenda mema, maana sisi ni wana wako. Pokea sifa na utukufu katika jina la Yesu tunaomba na kushukuru. Amen. Bwana asifiwe. Let's appreciate the worship team. Thank you so much. We may have our seats. Tunaweza keti. Karibuni sana. Jirani yako yuko? Ameenda? Wengine wameenda. Sawa sawa. We thank God. This is yet another afternoon. We want to hear what the Lord has in store for us, because this life is all rounded. In the morning we had the word, then we had etiquette. Now we want to look at our mental health, because you cannot do the best etiquette without the good mental health. So this afternoon, with the joy of the Lord, I want to welcome our Pastor Rosemary to come and bring us the speaker. Let's appreciate Rosemary. Haya, mnamu appreciate hivyo na mwaletea speaker.
Good afternoon. Are we well? Yes. For the visitors, I'm Rosemary Kamau. And I am here just to invite the woman of God who is going to bring to us mental health. Some of us, they normally think maybe mental health is only for those people who are in Mathare Hospital. Sindio? And maybe that's why many people didn't come. Or why didn't they come? Maybe they are busy. But I know that we are going to learn something new. Every time that God prepares a table, He knows there are people who are going to eat. So I'm going to welcome. She's my mom. And you know, sometimes it's very hard to introduce your mom. But if you want to know so much about me, when I was growing up, hata ile jina nilikuwa naitwa, she will tell us, or she can tell you who I am. I've grown, with her. I can remember very well, even during my wedding, the way, ile wamama wanakuja, or something like that. So I'm grateful to God, and with the joy of the Lord, I want to welcome my mom, Mrs. Nancy Ngetha. Tumpigie makofi. She has so much. She has so much, and she will tell you everything about herself, so that you will know she has the information about mental health. Karibu, ma'am. Karibu.
Hello. Thank you. We may be seated. Yes, I saw her grow. Anaitwa Rose wa Mama Rose. Maybe you call her differently because of the glory and honor of God, and placing her here as one of the pastors. Hamwezi kumuita Rose wa Mama Rose. She is Mrs. Rosemary Kamau. Bwana asifiwe. Amen. As she has said, I am Nancy, and I'll request the media team just to start off with the slides. I'm here to speak about mental health, and it's quite a wide topic, but we are going to look at a few issues that come up because of issues of mental health, and how we can take care of ourselves and also be able to take care of others. I am a counseling psychologist, as it's written there. I also have a background of nursing. I'm also looking at my slides around here so that we work together with the team. My profile, It's simple, not very big, but by the grace of God, I've been able to do a few things, and many others that I'm not able to mention. I'm a registered nurse. I'm a trainer of trainers in different fields, but related to health. I'm also a consultant with different organizations. I mentored, I do life coaching, and I'm an associate counselor with the Kenya Counseling and the Psychological Association of Kenya. I'm a private practitioner because I recently, a few years ago, I left my place of work, the previous station, because I transferred my services to another department called retirement, but not tired. I am a mother of 3 and a grandmother of 3. I'm single by circumstances because my husband went to be with the Lord, I think it's now 9 years ago. And I thank God because I have experienced the love of God, the care of God, the husband of widows and the father of the fatherless. Oh, hi, Mr. Kamau. Bwana asifiwe. You are still taking care of her, eh? Okay, thank you. Yeah, I will take the report back. And so, as I've said, I have seen the faithfulness of God in this journey. I am born again, and I go to church. I'm a Presbyterian church. It's called PCA. Eh? Presbyterian is PCA, where we usually have the first leading, the second leading, and a song to call the preacher. Protocols are very, very serious at the vestry. So I am under the pastoral care of Reverend Silas Washila Kemunyi, and my elder is Helen Kamau. I worship at Elijah Kagili Memorial Church. It is in Thika, just near town. And I worship in my prayer cell. We call ourselves the Kimathi District. So you know it's good to mention so that now I am known where I come from. But I've been brought up by many men of God, including Bishop Stephen. You also know the younger Stephen here, eh? Yeah, the older Stephen has been my pastor, so I've also been well taken care of. So as we look at the topic of today, I would like to look at mental health as a very heavy component in our lives. And maybe you can go slightly back, please. And yep, we are there. So we rub our shoulders with the different people, desperate people, hurting people, lonely people. We may not even be aware that they're hurting. As you sit next to somebody there, you may not even know, because once we walk in here and praise the Lord. The ushers us in. They have no idea where you're coming from. And now because we are in the house of the Lord, which is good, we get restoration here. Nobody really knows. And you are not very sure whether to be vulnerable with the people around you, lest they judge you. Are you still going to heaven? Is she still born again? But we are there and we are struggling with our own personal issues, stresses of life, because we are not exempted. The only people I know are exempted from the stresses of life are people called rest in peace. Because even the book of Ecclesiastes says, I think, it is Ecclesiastes. It says, whatever your heart findeth to do, do it with all your heart. For in the grave, there is no work to be done. And if there is no work to be done, it means then there are no stresses. And so, Maybe we are too busy, preoccupied, overwhelmed with ourselves. To be honest, many days we might be those people, the desperate, the hurting, the lonely, just needing someone to notice, to slow down, to take time, and to care. Though the Bible doesn't use the word depression, but I know it uses the word anxiety. You know that? It doesn't use the word depression, except in a few translations and verses. It's often referenced by other similar words such as downcast, broken-hearted, troubled, miserable, despairing, and mourning, among others. And so, as we sit here to look at that topic and of mental health, it is key for you to know, as you come to this church, as you go to see your relatives, as you are there with your children and even your friends, there are many people who are ailing, but they are not able to talk about it. And so, this afternoon, we are going to look at that major topic we are calling mental health. And we can go on, sir. The Word of God and the mental health. We all know this scripture, Philippians chapter 4 and verse 6 to 7. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your request be made known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds through Christ Jesus. So when the Bible mentions that, then it means we are bound to be at some point to be anxious. And this is why it is important to look at our mental health. Okay? The next one. So, mental health issues can prove to be a silent destroyer of workplace, productivity, and employees' happiness, including the church. Organizations are coming to recognize the importance of tackling mental health and the well-being of issues in workplace. I think I should put there stroke church. Not only because they care about the employees or the members of the church wellness, but also because they understand the cost associated with these issues. I don't know whether as a church you have experienced having members of the church who've had challenges with mental health. And up to now, maybe we are thinking that mental health is what Rosemary had mentioned. And mental health is far beyond what she mentioned or what she talked about, just being admitted in an institution. What is mental health? Mental health, health by itself is defined by the WHO as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease. So, if some people think that just having a disease is when we say you are unhealthy. But the absence of disease is not what entails that you are healthy. So, when we look at that, now we can narrow down and look exactly what is mental health. According to WHO, mental health is defined as a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own potential. And you can cope with the normal stresses of life. You can work productively and fruitfully, and you are able to make a contribution to your society or your community or the people you live with. That means if you are not able to develop your potential, you are not able to cope with the normal stresses of life. Normal stresses of life, we know them, just maybe for those who are mothers. a stress from your teenage child. Those are normal stresses of life. But if I find you on the road screaming because your son has seen another girl, that something is wrong. If I see you running around and you are screaming because there is no enough food in the house, there's a problem. So the normal stresses of life, to go to the supermarket and do shopping, if I find you screaming, like one time I saw on the TV, on the social media, somebody going to be stuck at the counter while paying the bill. Couldn't believe that this is the bill because of the inflation. Something is wrong somewhere. Because it's still normal, to some extent, you go for shopping and the money will never completely be enough. You will work with what you can adjust. If you're eating chicken every alternate days, then somebody who is healthy is able to adjust. Now, if you're not able to do the work that you usually do, because you feel a little bit down, very low, no energy, the mood is very low, then I'll be concerned, and especially if I'm comparing to what you have been before. Let's go on. Let me go a little bit back because of the youth who are here. The next definition of mental health, as far as the young people is concerned, this a part there in children and the young people is especially about the capacity to learn, enjoy friendships, to meet challenges, to develop talents and capabilities. So if you're a young person, you are not able to maintain relationships or friendships, and you're not able to work on to develop your talents and capabilities, and you know you have them, but whenever you want to come up, you become very much discouraged. I don't know what people will say. I don't have the energy. I have fear of people. All those kind of things. Then there is a problem. And as a parent, if you have a child that you can see they have no friends, always alone, and some of us might be very excited. My child hapendi kutembea tembea. It's an area of concern. We are social beings, as long as is a healthy relationship. And so, when we go further now, and we look at some of the few facts about WHO, and we are looking at this so that we understand ourselves, and we also understand the people that we fellowship with, and we understand our relatives or those who are close to us, whether at work or even at home. Mental, neurological, and substance abuse disorders make up 10% of the global burden of disease and 30% of non-fatal disease burden. About 1 in 5 of the world's children, and I hope you know the definition of a child, is 0 to 18 years. So 1 in 5 of the world's children and the adolescents have a mental disorder. This is something international. Depression is one of the leading causes of disability, affecting almost 300 million people. About half of mental disorders begin before the age of 14. And we are parents here. And for me, having worked at the Kenyatta National Hospital, and I was in charge of the youth friendly services, I can attest to this. That we have that issue of the mental health issues start at the age, about half of the mental disorders that we have in adult. If you take history, even brought somebody, an adult who has a mental issue problem, and I start taking history, I'll hear the mother say, or I'll hear somebody say, when he was around 17, when he was in the university, when he was in high school, we saw something like this. And so I'm not saying that, it's all of us who develop mental disorders, but half of the mental disorders begin just before the age of 14. And sometimes, especially for us who are parents, we can ignore and we can ridicule children. they are pretending, they are, they are not, they don't want school. I think it would be important to get guidance so that we are able to help. Because if we help when they are young, then we shall be able to prevent the adult problem. About 800,000 people die by suicide. And a note, we don't say they die by committing suicide. They die by suicide. It's a bit friendly. I did not putting somebody to feeling a victim. They die by suicide every year. That translates to that since you sat here in the morning, every 40 seconds, somebody has committed suicide in the world. Every 40 seconds. This is something from the WHO. But because you've not had any who has committed, and how do you it's business as usual. But you need to be aware that this is happening in the world today. The next bullet is talking about 1 in 9. Let's go on, sir. 1 in 9 people is in settings affected by conflict have a moderate, severe, or mental disorder. And that's why it's important to prevent issues of conflict where it's possible. People with severe mental disorders die 10 to 20 years earlier than the general population. That is, if somebody has a mental disorder, and by God's, we are given 70 years, but by the strength of the bones and the body, we can go beyond that. So let's say I was to die at 70. If I experience a mental health disorder and it's not being well managed, then it means I'll die 10 years or 20 years earlier. So our mental health touches on longevity of life. Again, the rates of mental health workers vary from below 2%, but maybe this is not very necessary, but rather those are the three bullets. They're talking about the issues of logistics, and it is internationally, but even us in Kenya, we do not have the right ratio for psychiatrists against the population they are taking care of, or counselors, or psychologists. There's still a big gap. And that's why you see, most of us know only about the Mathare Hospital. But are you aware the others now which have started offering? But still, compared with the population, they are very few. The next slide talks about our own situational analysis. 1 in 4 people in the world will be affected by mental disorder. And still it's about the logistics that are there. Maybe you can leave this. The notes are around. You can follow up with the IT team or the media team. In our country now, Kenya's mental health policy estimates that about 25% of our outpatient. You understand who are outpatient? Outpatient are those people who go for services. They are treated. They are given medication. They go home. And so we are saying 25% of them, we have them as outpatient, and about 40% they are inpatients. And when you look at those statistics, it tells you, as much as I've not met somebody out there who has a mental health disorder, according to the government, and they give proper statistics, although these ones we have used them for a few years, maybe it has changed. But more shocking is that there are no sufficient staff to work on these cases. But I'm seeing because this policy was developed in 2016, I know the issues could have changed. Let's go on. Mental health and the emotional self. They go together. We are affected emotionally when our mental health is affected. So people who are emotionally healthy are in control of their thoughts. They are in control of their feelings and behaviors. They are able to cope with the life challenges, as I had said in the definition. People who are mentally ill, they are able to cope with the daily challenges that they do encounter. They can also keep problems in perspective and bounce back from setbacks. Yes, you are going to have a setback, but you are able to bounce back. There is resiliency. They feel good about themselves and they have good relationship. I don't know whether we feel good about ourselves. Maybe right now you need to ask yourself, am I okay? How do I feel about myself? A meeting with yourself. Don't ask your neighbor. A meeting with yourself. How am I feeling about myself? I think I should leave another questionnaire with the pastor on emotional wellness, so that you can get it through the media people. Then you can be able to check whether you are in touch with your feelings. Good feelings, nice feelings, happy feelings, anger. You know, this is something that it's you, not anybody telling you. So people who are emotionally healthy, they are able to get in touch with their inner self. Next, we have being emotionally healthy does not mean you are happy all through. It means you are aware of your emotions. You can deal with them whether they are positive or negative. Emotionally healthy people will still feel stress and sadness, but they know how to manage their feelings. They can tell when a problem is more than they can handle on their own, and they can consult. They can be, they can seek for help, because I am aware I'm not happy. I am aware I am sad. So this also includes what we would call emotional intelligence. Being aware, self-awareness of how I am feeling. And you see, our problem is not only in the church, but in life. How are you, Mrs. Ngetha? I'm fine. Am I really fine? But you see, it is stuck there. I just tell people you are fine. But the reality on the ground, maboko cloud. You know very well you're not fine. I wish you can still say I'm fine, but you take yourself a small meeting and ask yourself, what have I just told her? Am I fine? The way I'm sad about 1, 2, 3, the way I'm angry with my house manager, the way I'm happy. You try to look at yourself and see, am I really fine? I'm not asking you to tell people I'm not fine. And you can also try. If you're not fine, tell somebody I'm not fine. And it's like, what's wrong with her? Do people go saying they are not fine? Ask me, Mrs. Ngetha, how are you? I'm not fine. What? Because we are not used to talking about that negativity. So, let's go to the next kind of mental wellness. Mental health and the physical self. How does it go together? The effect of mental health on longevity, which I've just said, that if you suffer a mental health disorder, you are going to die 10 to 20 years earlier than you would have reached. One of the clearest places that the link between mental and physical health is illustrated in longevity. People with mental health challenges, such as schizophrenia, I'll talk a little bit later, or even depression, tend to live shorter lives as compared with those who do not have these conditions. And so, the need to take care of yourself, the need to take mental health seriously. Let's see the next issue of mental health. Mental health and economic self. When you're affected mentally, and I'm saying now to the extent you're not able to cope with the normal stresses of life, and I can see we have young people here, including being left by a boyfriend through an SMS. There are some who cannot handle that. They can't eat, they can't do anything. So, when we talk about mental health, it can affect even a young person. Are we together? But the question is, some people wonder, can a young person eat stress ya nini, na anakula na analala? So, mental health and the economic self. A person who has mental health problems may be unproductive and that's not realizing his potential. When somebody is unwell, maybe there's depression, maybe the thinking process has been affected, maybe she has the medical conditions we are talking about, schizophrenia, psychosis, depression, bipolar, all that, then she cannot perform as before. Meaning she can even be sick of. She's not at work. Meaning she cannot even cook for her children. Meaning that she, so it will affect her performance at workplace. So that's where we look at can people with mental health conditions affect the economy of this country? All affect. You can imagine if the church had quite a number of people who are not mentally okay, they are on treatment, they are not going to work, and even if they had some savings somewhere, they have not come even to give offering. Some of them are affected, maybe even the memory to remember to set by M-Pesa, even the church you will see a decline in giving. That means economics. So it's not just a matter of the country, the nation as a whole. Even the home itself, it will experience. If mom cannot go to work, she is on sick off 1 month, another month, or dad for that matter, then the salary comes half because she has not been to work for a long time, or she lands a shop, she is not able to go to that shop and do the business. The shop is always closed because she is not able, she cannot even remember how she'll give change. I think the home will also be affected by the flow of cash. Is it true? So, mental illness impacts on the broader economy by reducing workforce participation and impairing the productivity of those who are employed or those who are doing business. Mental health and the social self. Social self is what also I would call social intelligence. Knowing how to handle your interpersonal relationship, how you handle yourself, me, myself, and I. That's already a relationship. How I handle interpersonal relationship, me and my mother, me and my children, me and my friends. So people with more severe forms of mental health issues have smaller social circle. You'll find that people who have mental health challenges, they don't have many friends. Even the relatives don't understand them. They even become, kind of stigmatized and isolated. So people with more severe mental health issues have smaller social networks than others, and they have more family members than friends in their social circle. Rather, what do I mean? They don't have many people like now, and allow me to use that as an example without quoting anybody's name. If your family member, one of them, is diagnosed with a mental health problem, the family comes in a good way because they need to protect, but the outside world may not be informed because there is no need even. So you find with time, that person can only relate with the family members, is not able to relate with the outside world. I hope I'm communicating. And so, because of the small network, the support system outside there, and they have to assume work if they're working when they improve. Because people take medication and they improve and they're able to go back to work. Quite a number of them. They're not able even to face the outside world. So those are areas we need to look at as far as mental health is concerned. What are the mental health illnesses and disorders that we are talking about? The common ones are depression, and I'm going to go into depression in a detailed way. We also have issues for anxiety, bipolar affective disorder, so we can call them mood disorders, schizophrenia and the other psychosis. I won't go into detail, but schizophrenia and other psychosis has something to do with when people have bizarre behavior, the reality also is affected, and they experience even hallucinations. Dementia, quite common with some conditions, but mostly it comes to the elderly. Then we have developmental disorders. We have some of us who are also bringing up children with autism. It ends up being a little bit also something to do with mental illness, mood disorders, which is together with bipolar. We have personality issues, and mostly the issues of being a perfectionist. You know, there are people who are very perfectionist. You put this one here, they want it here. They want things to be done. Sometimes it's good, but if it's kind of an obsession, then we have a problem. Eating disorders, quite common with young people. They can eat and they get filled and they put their fingers in the mouth and they vomit. So we call anorexia, bulimia, or naphosa. So eating disorders, quite common with young people. And we have seen them being brought to us. And sometimes it connects with some bit of depression. Then we have substance-induced disorder. We are in church, so here we don't take alcohol. Bwana asifiwe. We are there. Ebu inua mkono tuone kama tuko pamoja. We are in church, eh? But you know there is alcohol out there, eh? It's not here, but I think if I walk out of that gate, I don't have to struggle so much. And I don't know how they observe those people who take and don't take. By the way, you'll never find even a shop for bangi. Have you ever found any? Duka imewekwa kwa shelf. As you go shopping for sugar, milk, there's also a shelf for bangi. But I can promise you, if you walk out here, I usually ask the young people, how did you know? Watu wanajuana tu, najuana. And so, when people start taking the drugs, and the Christians are not exempted. And so for our young people who are here, there is need for self-discipline. Self-discipline. Because a topic of another day about drugs, it's easy to get hooked. Even as born again as you are. Even covered as you are. I was listening a testimony of another girl who has been, is in the public domain. I saw it on one of the social media. She was even in the choir. She was even serving in the church. But just got a bit of it, and unfortunately, she got addicted. And once you get addicted, you crave for it. So we shall be there, we lay hands on you, we take you to rehab, and you might end up with that condition, drug-induced problem. And you'll be admitted, and you can present in many forms when you have drug-induced problem. Let's go on. And so, what are the factors that contribute to mental health problems? The factors that contribute to these are life experiences, such as trauma or history of abuse. As we were growing up, and as you are growing up, young people, even the oldest here, and I think I'm second oldest maybe. As we were growing up, there were challenges that we faced. There are traumas that we went through. And some of these traumas are not even talked about. And I'm saying this because of the nature of work I do. When I go and I'm taking history in confidence, and I ask the person, how was you growing up? And the person just breaks down and says, when I was growing up, my uncle, my cousin, alifanya hii na hii. That's maybe sexual abuse, for that matter. And so those people who grow up in difficult situations, those people who grow up in a place where mom and dad are taking alcohol, a lot of fights in their house, they grow up with trauma and they experience what we would call adverse childhood experiences. And so later, they can have issues with mental health. We are together? Another factor is biological factors such as genes or chemical imbalances in the brain. So there are some of us born in the family that has a history of depression. So you'll find us who are practicing as mental health care providers, we shall take the family medical history. And somebody will say, I was told by my mom, my uncle also had the same problem. I know in the church setup, we shall call it generational curses. But in the medical field, we have the issue of the genes. And also it goes together even being an alcoholic or a drug addict We shall get that history there. So these are contributing factors. So if you know that in your family has a history of somebody who suffered a mental illness, and you see your child behaving in a manner almost the same, yes, let's trust God for that, with that, and he will do, he will heal. By the stripes of Jesus Christ, we are healed. But it's also good to be informed. It's important to have a medical checkup by a mental health specialist. Then there are bullet 3 and 2, they go together. Then the personality, where I had talked about perfectionism, being a perfectionist. Let's go on. Other signs and the symptoms of mental health. And these are things you can observe on a friend, a relative, or even with yourself. You can observe it on yourself, and especially when you say you have insight. When we say somebody has no insight, it means these things can be happening to you, but only your dad can see, or your father, or your mother, or people who work with you. So we have different areas to be careful about. And so for us, if you observe a behavior of somebody changing, and you keep on telling him and he's saying no, you don't have to fight over that. It's because he lacks or she lacks insight. She is not aware that she's behaving that way. And so some of the signs we can observe on somebody, or the person can come to us with the complaints, I have been feeling 1, 2, 3. So one of them, they are not written in order. If you notice somebody withdrawing from friends and family and colleagues, this is your child or your husband or your wife or your friend is not coming out of the house, and this is not her. We know her. She is a jovial person. She likes being with the people. But the last 2 weeks, she's not, she's not showing up for staff meeting. Tukiita family meeting, she gives many excuses. She's not available. It's time to ask ourselves, is she okay? And unfortunately, we get these clients when it's a little bit late, because you are observing, and also there is that feeling, is it true that my mother is breaking down? Avoiding activities that they would normally enjoy. Please note, it can't be you observing yourself, you don't want to be with people, or it can be others observing. It can also be you notice you don't enjoy anymore activities that you previously enjoyed. It can also be sleeping too much or too little. We call them vegetative function. Sleeping too much or too little. Eating too much or too little. Feeling of hopelessness. You just wake up, you feel hopeless. There's no life. You have no hope of tomorrow. Having consistent low energy, including energy even to wake up from bed. You just want to stay there. And some of us may misdiagnose this as parent. Your teenager is just lazy. You know teenagers of today. She has not been this way before. Something somewhere is not okay. She's not being rude. And of course, you have observed this over time. Using mood-altering substances, including alcohol and nicotine. Some of them, they come to say, I can't sleep. So these days, I'm just using Tupiditone. Hakuna usigizi. Yeah, Jui, she's not aware she's unwell. She's just taken because she's not able to sleep. Others who are taking alcohol, we shall find that if somebody has been taking alcohol, maybe 2 bottles, will end up taking more than usually takes, or must take something to sleep. Or even if not alcohol, there are some who go to the chemist. Naambia mtu wa chemist, kuna kadawa siku hizi silali vizuri, kuna kadawa unaweza nisaidia nilale. So we shall be concerned about that. Then the other sign and symptom is displaying negative emotions, always negative in what you're talking about. The emotions are very low. You're not excited. Some can present with some confusion. Being unable to complete the daily activities such as getting to work for, or even cooking a meal, having persistent thoughts of our loss of memory. Sometimes there can be memory issues. Thinking of causing physical harm in themselves. And this physical harm can be suicidal thoughts. If I came and told you, mi sisikii kuishi, mi afadhali nikufe. Mi nafeel tu nataka kukufa tu. Najua mtu akikufa haendi mbinguni. Kwani kuna shida gani hajaonekana hii dunia? I'm being serious. And most of the people who have committed suicide, they have always talked about it. They talk to us, indirectly or directly. And so, and for, I don't know whether mothers, I don't know about fathers, whether they have noticed. Mothers are quick to notice this. Have you ever come across young people cutting themselves? Self-cut. Vijana, nyinyi mwetoka secondary juzi. Did you come across some students cutting themselves? Let's be honest. Self-harm. When I see youth from where? You are delivered, eh? You may not notice very fast. But if you observe your child ever in a jacket, long sleeve, does not like wearing short sleeve shirt. Cutting is not common to boys, but mostly girls. It won't shock me just to note if they come to me and I tell somebody, remove your jacket, and I'll see cuts from here to here to relieve emotional pain. It's quite common. So I was talking about self-harm. So I know even here I could be having my clients. You always feel like cutting yourself, but you distract yourself. Others, they use biros and dividers, dividers in class. Is that true, young people? Sisemi ni nyinyi. But you saw people do that, eh? Is it? Parents are shocked because they really admire their children. They are wearing long sleeves. They are not in cold. They really take care. Sometimes it's good to be a little bit. I think I've heard 2 adults somewhere who did that. And it was even adults. It can happen. I may not go into detail. Let's go to the next one. Let's narrow down to depression because that's the main thing that is really, not that the other conditions are okay, we are not concerned, but it's just thought of narrowing down to depression. Depression is a common and a serious medical illness that negatively affects how one feels, thinks, and acts. Depression is a mood disorder that causes persistent feeling of sadness and the loss of interest. Common with young people as well. Wazee wanajiskuma kabisa. If you see a mama like me staying in bed, I'm seriously sick. We try to listen now. But sometimes when it attacks or it affects the young people, they can stay in bed. And then as parents or as adults, they are maligaling. By the time you realize, it's a case for hospital. So one of the things, it can lead to a variety of emotional and physical problems. One may have trouble doing normal day-to-day activities, and sometimes one may feel as if life is not worth living. It can happen to young people. It can happen to older people. Life, that feeling that you don't even usually share with anybody. It may not be clinical depression that you need medication immediately, but something just to think about. Every time unajikokota kuja kanisa, unaamka kwa kitanda kuenda kazi, unaketi kwa kitanda, kifikiria niende ama nisiende, ama nipige simu. And it's not once. It can happen once in a while because of the nature of work. But if it's something that is going to last 2 weeks, feeling the same way, you're feeling low energy, even to perform simple tasks, even taking tea itself, and it's already put in the cup, then we need help. In some years back, about 4 years ago, Kenya was number 6 in Africa in cases of depression. We were headline. Not because of any wrongdoing, but we were. Next one. Causes of depression. Depression is likely to be due to complex combination of factors that include genetics, as I had said earlier, that genetics has something to play in our mental illnesses. Biological changes, that is the neurotransmitter levels. Neurotransmitters are chemicals that help the body to balance our moods. Environmental, and also psychological and social issues. Those are the factors that can contribute to the causes of the depression. And more risk factors is life events, that is like trauma. We have talked about sexual abuse. It can be people who have experienced, like they say, the Al-Shabaab. That is a trauma, that's a life event. It can be a loss of a loved one. Personality, genetic factors, childhood trauma, some prescription drugs. They can also have a side effect of that. Abuse of recreational drugs, past head injury, maybe you had an accident, you hit your head, it can contribute to that. Having had one episode of a major depression puts you more in a more risk to have another one. Chronic pain syndrome, especially those who have long-suffering illnesses, cancers. If you have a condition that you have suffered in it for a long time, it can predispose you to have some depression. Comorbid chronic medical conditions goes together with the chronic pain syndrome because the conditions are there and there's a lot of pain. By the fact you are just female, you are a lady, that's a risk factor. I won't go into that. But as ladies, we have many hormonal issues in our system, as compared maybe to men. But by the fact that you are female, we are told that we are predisposed to that. How do you then tell somebody is depressed? How do you tell that you are depressed? How do you tell your child is depressed, your brother is depressed, or your friend is depressed? They will manifest in a low mood. There is reduced interest or pressure in activity previously enjoyed. I used to like going to the kesha. I used to be excited when we are going for evangelism, when we are going to do this, or when going to work, going for Christmas. And you really used to enjoy that. All of a sudden, there's nothing to be excited about. Loss of, you have led. So there are some people who are not supposed to be on that category, because we shall ask you, when did you know that you have lost that? Si munajijua, eh? So the one that this is relevant. Si pia munajijua, eh? Loss of sexual desire. It can be a sign and symptom. But if a young person comes and tells me, I've lost, I won't be judgmental, because we shall be in my office in confidence. So we shall talk about it. But generally, this is in books. And we have seen it even in presentation of our clients. Unintentional weight loss without dieting or loss of appetite. Insomnia, difficult sleeping or hypersomnia, excessive sleeping. Psychomotor agitation, for example, restlessness, pacing up and down, can also be a sign of depression. Then we have, let's have the next slide, please. Delayed psychomotor skills, for example, slowed movement and speech. Somebody who would talk, like now, those people who know me, they know my speed of talking. My children know me. So if I call one of them right now and say, hello, mukoaje, mimi niko zima man, it will be the question, Mami, what's up? Because there is a slowed psychomotor and my speech has gone slow. I hope I'm communicating. So in depression, people tend to talk very slowly. Remember, you are comparing with the way you know that person. Then we have, may I have the slide? Let's go back a little bit. We have fatigue or loss of energy. I had talked about that in a general way. You don't feel, you have no energy even to perform the simple task, even taking a bath. And that's why you'll find people who are depressed. They will also present with a history. You know, even today, I'm the one who made sure she took a bath. And she has been bathing before. Feelings of worthlessness and guilty, impaired inability to think, concentrate, or even make decisions. And there's also recurrent thoughts of suicide or even attempted suicide. So, but not always that people who commit suicide, they are depressed. Not always. But a higher percentage, they'll present that way. People who commit suicide do not necessarily have to be depressed. But quite a number of them, they express their depression. Let's go on. And may I have some water? Or I can use this. Is depression manageable? Yes, it is manageable. Our challenge is, as mental health care providers, is that when a patient or you, when you present yourself to us, for example, you'll be brought to me for counseling. And then I diagnose that this is not only for counseling, it is also for psychiatric review. Just the word psychiatrist to mention. You know the work of a psychiatrist? Anaonaga kina nani? Do I say that word? Sometimes it's very stigmatizing. But those are the words we have. They see people who are broken down. They have a mental breakdown. So the minute I tell, I think I'm going to refer your child to a psychiatrist. Hey, hakuna kitu unaweza fanya. Hey, you know, hey, and it is a stress. So even if you end up with a psychiatrist, chances are you'll be put on medication for 2 weeks, antidepressant. The doctor expects to see you after 2 weeks. Maybe you have some slight improvement, although most of the time you have to take more than 2 weeks to see a bit of improvement. But when you start feeling good and better, umepona. Who said umepona? And maybe also you will be laid hands on. You are prayed for. So that medication of 2 weeks plus the laying of hands, you are healed. And I have no problem with that. And so you stop your medication. Or your parents don't bring you back for medication. Or even you personally, you don't come back. And for sure you're okay. The neurotransmitters have been balanced. And you're okay. Until down the line, 6 months or 1 year, another episode. So where I'm saying it is manageable, it becomes a problem. And I don't blame anybody. It's because sometimes there are a lot of stigma. Imagine saying, even the psychiatrists of this country, we know them. The minute you mention, I'm going to see Dr. So-and-so, unaonaga huyo? Kwani kuna nini? Kwani mtoto ako na nini? Because already there is that stigma. And so, I am saying it is manageable. Depression is treatable, mental illness. These are 3 components for the management of depression. There is drugs specifically you'll be put on antidepressants, there are a variety of them. Then we will be brought to us for psychotherapy, and we also make sure we bring on board support system. It can be family, it can be friends, it can be support system from the place of work, so that you adhere to medication. And do not stop your medication until the doctor says so. I do not prescribe for yourself. The professional chemists, they don't tell medication for mental illness off the counter. They will demand a prescription because they also know they are drugs of addiction as well. You can get addicted to some of them. So if the doctor tells you continue with them. And with time, as you continue recovering, He will stop them and he will book you for appointments just to make sure that you are doing well. Let's go on. I'm holding on. Self-help tips on how to cope with depression. Stay in touch. Be more active. Face your fears. Avoid alcohol and drugs. Try to eat healthy. Have a routine. And most of the time we do encourage our clients to have a routine. And also there is need for seeking help for depression, which already I've mentioned how we manage it. Is it okay if we look at suicide? Has it been a scare? Or we've not had people who are committing suicide? Have we read in the papers? But it has never come close to us, eh? And by the way, I read somewhere that it's not unusual for even the normal person to sit down and just wonder, why am I still alive? And you know these unspoken thoughts, eh? The unspoken, you cannot go telling pastor, you know, I thought, is it okay to be alive? What's wrong with this one? Suicide. We said every 40 seconds in the world, somebody commits suicide. So you can divide the 24 hours, convert it to seconds, and see how many have committed suicide since we woke up, or by midnight. This is taking self-life, killing oneself. Attempted suicide is a potential self-injurious and act committed with at least some intent to die. Suicide is an attempt to solve problems of intense emotional pain with impaired problem-solving skills. Somebody feeling, I've had so much pain, I have suffered so much, emotionally I'm feeling very low. Is it worth the living? I just need to go, to exit. Others, it's just because of their mental health condition. So, individuals of all ages, creeds, incomes, and educational levels die by suicide. This is no typical suicide. There is no typical suicide victim. We have had the rich and the poor and the middle. None is exempted. You remember one time there was a manager who fell from 17th floor? A whole manager of an organization. What did he lack? But there must have been a problem somewhere. So, when you're talking about suicide, let's go on. Sorry for that delay. These are some numbers I had gotten some times back. The numbers of people who have committed suicide in 114 out of 175 countries. Click again. There was a 113% rise. They were comparing with previous years. This report was 206-2017. Next one. There is one suicide every 4 seconds. And 78% male in 2017. And for your information, more male commit suicide than female. Female can say, nitakufa, mi nitakufa hutanipata. We can really say how we are going to die. But you see, we also go out there and talk. When a man says, I'm going to commit suicide or I'm tired with life, we better be careful. It most likely to happen. So that year, those years, it was 78% male in 2017. Next one. Characteristic of suicidal behaviors, so that we are become our brother's keeper. Or even you also observe yourself. The person becomes ambivalent. The person is feeling two things at the same time. There's a part of them that want to leave, and there's a part of them that just want to die. While we line up with an equivocal support to support the side that wants to live, this can't be done by ignoring or dismissing that side that wants to die. So when I'm telling you I want to commit suicide, I am not completely on that load. Half of me, because when I ask a client, you really want to die? Yenyewe mimi nikifikiria mom, na ninafikiria my children, isipokuwa ni kusikia vibaya, me I don't want to die. So there's a part of them that want to die, a part of them want to live. And it's important that we empower the side that want to live. Okay. The other thing you need to observe in this person is that the person, let's go to the next slide, sir. Suicidal solution has an irrational component. People who are suicidal are often unaware of the consequences suicide or what suicide can cause to the others, or rather, suicide that it's obvious to, how is that statement? People who are suicidal are often unaware the consequences of suicide that are obvious to the rest of the world. You know, when I want to commit suicide, I'm not considering how will my mother feel, how will my pastor feel, but because I'm unwell and I want to solve a problem by just getting away, I do not consider what the other people. If today I want to commit suicide, people will listen with me. Unaacha watoto wako na nani? Unaacha wachukuu na nani? The world is aware of the obvious. But me, some people do say that people who commit suicide, they are selfish, which is not necessarily true. Remember, they are unwell, most of them. They are usually not thinking about the impact of their death on others, or they hold a perception. They hold a perception they will be reincarnated or somehow still pleasant to see how others are reacting to their death. Let's go to the next one, and we can be a bit faster. Suicidal or being suicidal is a form of communication. When somebody says, I want to commit suicide, they are putting their hand up. They want to say, I need help. They are crying for help. So you don't condemn. Kwani nini inakufanya ukufe? Nini hatujaona? Actually, they don't want to die. They are crying for help. Let's go to the next one. They usually tend to hurt themselves or kill themselves. You'll observe that. They'll look for ways to kill themselves, seeking access to firearms, pills, or otherwise. Some of them, if I ask them, they say, I collected all the pills in the house. The Panadol, the Moxil, you didn't finish the dose, the Piriton that was there. So they'll start piling up. They are ready to go. They'll start lighting or talking about death. And we have seen this in social media. Some people saying, I'm tired with life. And you read it on the social media. And the people usually comment there. Siukufe sukuje masishi. Kwa huna lati. Nikusaidia na kaba. And you know, people are communicating. They are very honest. I saw one on social media who complained. And he even told people on the social media, welcome for my funeral if my body is found. Utakufa lini? But the good Christians also wrote something good. Be anxious for nothing. No, that was quite good and encouraging. But maybe that time the scripture is not making any sense. How about calling the person? Most likely he will pick. And after a few hours, he stayed on social media 5 good hours, reading the responses of people. Then he committed suicide. And then people came back on the same page. Rest in peace, brother. Shine all the way. So, most of the time, they talk to us. Feeling rage or uncontrolled anger or seeking refuge. They sometimes act reckless or engaging in risk activities, seemingly without thinking. It's not that they have processed in their thoughts. Next one. They are usually feeling trapped. So this one we might not notice as we look at you. But you who is feeling suicidal, you feel trapped and there's no way out, according to you. They have increased alcohol use or drug use, withdrawing from friends and family, feeling anxious, agitated, or unable to sleep or sleep all the time. They also experience dramatic mood swing and seeing no reason for living or having a purpose in life. Let's go on. Stigma and discrimination because this is our problem. We don't want to talk about mental illness. We don't want to be seen with a mentally sick, going to hospital. We don't want to tell anybody that my sister got unwell because they are going to inquire more. Why? Because of stigma. Stigma is a powerful social process of devaluing people or groups based on real or perceived difference, such as gender, age, sexual orientation, behavior, or ethnicity, or disease. Discrimination follows stigma that is unfair and just treatment. And I think people with mental illness have faced a lot of discrimination, being unfairly treated. Let's go on. Mental illness is not a character defect. There are many reasons why people develop mental illness. Some are genetic, some are a result of childhood trauma, some stem from environment, as I had explained earlier. And so nobody can be blamed because one has a mental illness. The effects of stigma on mental health. There is fear and misunderstanding, often leading to prejudice against people with mental health. This prejudice and discrimination leads to feelings of hopelessness and shame in those struggling to cope with their situation, creating a serious barrier to diagnosis. The next one. Harmful effect, reluctance to seek medical help, lack of understanding by family and friends, and also workers, or even church goers or believers, fewer opportunities for getting work or even getting a good school. There is bullying and physical violence or harassment. They believe that you'll never succeed at certain challenges or that you can improve the situation. But the thing is, you can improve. How can we overcome the stigma? Ways to overcome stigma is like what we are doing today. It's very rare to find churches calling us to talk about mental health. But by the fact we are doing this today, we are talking about it. If you have a child who has mental health, talk about it. If you have a mother with dementia, talk about it without shame. Because we are going to appreciate even when we see you are not coming to churches because maybe you are stuck somewhere. Maybe you went for a clinic. Let's say maybe you are going for psychiatric review, you yourself. So when you feel stable and the drugs have worked on you, of course I'm not asking you to study and start saying what you're suffering, but confide, talk about it. And if you have the grace to come here to give a testimony, don't we give a testimony about diabetes? My blood sugar have gone down. Can't we give a testimony? I've been suffering depression, but with the prayers and medication that I'm taking, I am feeling better. So let's talk about it, about mental health. And the month for mental health is May. That's the time we do great awareness. Maybe the church can capitalize on that. The month of May is Mental Health Month. September 10th, internationally, September 10th is World Suicide Prevention Day. October 10th is World Mental Health Day. And we pick on that, and with our medical team who are in the church, they can assist on that. Educate yourself and others. Be conscious of your language, the way we talk. You know, anaokotanga. Let's change our. Can you listen to that language? Not in the church, even out there on the streets. Don't we talk that way? You know, it's very stigmatizing, the language. Have you heard those languages? Wewe hujua naonekanaga na nani? Kai hujajua. Ni client wa nani? Wa flank. Jenga. Don't we talk that way? Even if not here. Haven't you heard it out there? So, we need to be careful about the language we use. Encourage equality between physical and mental health. Just the way you take care of your mother who has diabetes. and your father has dementia, equal care. Show compassion for those with mental health. If you happen to know somebody say have a challenge of mental health, how do we take care of them? By the way, I've never seen people going to visit somebody who has just been discharged from Madare. It's very rare. In my life, and in my practice, and in my family, in my socials, I've not had people, today afternoon, we are going to see so-and-so. You know, she was discharged from Madare the other day. Hata wenye kufestiwa, they are not there. I hope I'm communicating. And I'm talking this with a lot of passion because I work with these people. Choose empowerment over shame. Be honest about your treatment. Next one. Focus on positive. Support other people as well. Include everyone. Let the media know when they are stigmatizing. That is beyond this church. Because sometimes even on media level, not this media, please. I'm talking about the media outside. It can also be very stigmatizing. Don't harbor stigma. Next one. If you have mental health challenges, here are some ways you can deal with the stigma. Those of us, you know yourself, whether you are taking medication, you can get treatment. You can be reluctant to admit you need treatment. Don't let the fear of being labeled with mental illness prevent you from seeking help. Treatment can be provided to relieve by identifying what's wrong and reducing symptoms that interfere with your work and the personal life. Remember, we said the definition. If you're not mentally okay, it affects your potential. You're not able to cope with the normal stresses of life. Next one. Don't let stigma create self-doubt and self-shame. I think I've talked with that. Another one. Don't isolate yourself. Come out. And of course, to the people who are going to understand you. That is our support system. Next one. Don't equate yourself with the illness. So, if you're here and you're suffering some mental health problem, don't equate yourself. I'm schizophrenic. I'm bipolar. I am depression case. You are not an illness. So instead of saying I'm bipolar, say I have bipolar disorder. Instead of calling yourself schizophrenic, say I have schizophrenia. Language. You are not equal to that disease. You are a human being. Next one. Speak out against stigma. Let's go to the next one. Join a support group if it's available. And most of the time they're available in the institutions. So the doctor who is seeing you or seeing your child or your mother, find out. Maybe they know where you can get a support group. Next one. How does God feel about mental health then? God provides us with the things we need. Lucas of physician. We are the extended hands of Jesus. We are co-workers with him. Are we together? So God has provided for us the therapist, including the psychotherapist, the counselor, the psychiatrist. They are there. God has allowed people to go to school and they have learned. Make use of them. Have access to medication. He has allowed us to have medication. Have time with him. Good support system. Loving God with our minds can mean utilizing some of these things or some of these people he has provided for us. Next one. How does Christianity affect mental health? A number of studies have found that default people have fewer symptoms of depression and anxiety, as well as a better ability to cope with the stress. Certain religious practices may even change the brain in a way that boosts mental health. Studies sometimes back 2015. And so, go back a little bit. And so, if you're a devoted person and committed, chances of developing the signs and symptoms of mental health or the depression come a little bit down. Let's combat it. Next one. Does psychology go against Christianity? Because here also we have a challenge. The demons, Let's cast the demons, Which is okay. They are spirits. But it's also sickness. We talked about neurotransmitters, These are chemical in your system, It doesn't have to be that you went somewhere and some demons were instilled in you. Are we together? So, despite what other psychologists like Freud and psychology Christians believe, psychology and spirituality are complementary, not antithetical. Are we together? One complements the other. And so you go and be seen by the doctor. He is the one God has placed to help us, including now the players in church. Next one. I'm about to finish. We live in a fallen world with an enemy that never quits. That is about as much as, we are believers, but we live in this world. We have not gone anywhere. It is important for us to understand that we have authority in Christ as believers. This is an essential part of living free and staying free. As Christ followers, we have been tasked with bringing heaven's rule and reign on earth. The word authority means delegated power. This means the value of our authority rests in the power behind it. Matthew 28:18 says, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. When we put our faith in Christ, his authority is our authority. This is great news because the God of the universe is the power behind our authority. When we understand this and know how to exercise that authority, we can face the enemy. That is, we can face the enemy of the issues of mental illness together with the therapists, the doctors, the support system that God has given us. Now that we are aware that we have this authority, it's time we put it to use. So prayer is complementary to the doctor's prescription and the psychologist's work. Next one. Job 22 and verse 28 says, you will declare a thing and it will be established for you. So light will shine on your way. Next one. Mental health challenges in the Bible. We had a few people, quite a number of people who had these challenges. And still, they were able to serve God. King Saul was a long-time sufferer of mental distress. David was troubled at the battle deep despair. That should be the second bullet. Elijah was discouraged, weary, and afraid. Jonah was angry and wanted to run away. Job suffered through great loss, devastation, and physical illness. Moses was grieved over the sin of his people. Jeremiah wrestled with great loneliness, feeling of defeat and insecurity. Even Jesus himself was deeply anguished over what lay ahead, before him. What's true about all these stories and many others in the Bible? God was still with them. One asked if we were. What is true? God was still with them. Let's go to the next one. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in the spirit. Psalms 4 and 18. Next one. I wish not to go through all these, but these are scriptures, those who are taking photos of the screen. Scriptures to combat fear. The Bible is forever, the word of God is forever more settled in heaven. There is nothing in life that does not have an answer in the word of God. And so we have scriptures that can help you combat the fear. Next one. Scriptures that help you combat the depression. Scriptures that help you to combat anxiety. Scriptures that help you to combat perfectionism. And in conclusion, taking small steps to promote mental health and emotional well-being in your organization, in the church, can truly pay off in the long run. Most people who live with mental health have at some point been blamed for their condition. They've been called names. Stigma causes people to feel ashamed for something that is out of their control. Most of the stigma prevents people from seeking medical help. For a group of employees who already for a group of people who have already carrying a lot of baggage on themselves, and then you give them the baggage of the stigma, then it becomes difficult. All of the mental health community, all what the mental health community need is to raise out their voices against stigma. Every day, in every possible way, we need to stand up against stigma. Next one. Thank you very much. Hello. So it's a hard topic, but the thing is, if I count here, God forbid, 1, 2, 3, 4. In every 4, the fifth one, has a mental health issue. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how statistics are. Are we together? Sorry, you don't have, I didn't mean that. But those are statistics. Every 40 seconds, somebody commits suicide. So let's be our brother's keeper. And also let's observe ourselves. When you feel your thoughts, your feelings, and your behavior are not going together, I have not said that, I don't like this word. I'm a mental health person, but I find it very stigmatizing, mad, But it's good to admit I'm not okay. If you're not coping with the normal stresses of life, if your potential has gone down, that's not the way you know yourself. It is time to seek help. And you also call your pastor so that he is also studying the gap, because it's also complementary. Of course, we cannot be vulnerable with everybody. I cannot go telling everybody, I don't feel like waking up. I don't feel like eating. I don't feel like this. Even that one, they ask, uyo wako sawa sasa. Anaenda aki-announce. So it can also be part of the illness. So also let us not judge. We see how we can help. God bless you so much for listening. If there's one question, maybe I can tackle just one. Somebody can give out the mic. Those interested with the notes, you can talk with the leadership of the church. The soft copy is available. Those who would want. Anybody with a question? Put your hand up. I think I'm clear. Oh, there is a hand there.
Thank you so much. I'm just wondering, as you interact with people, now like myself, I can see this person has an issue that needs some help. But when I try to encourage them maybe to get help, wanasema, mimi niko sawa. Yeah.
So what do you do? That's a question, Unlike other health issues, because if you tell somebody, I'm seeing like you're losing weight, could you be having a problem? It's something you can see. Mental health, you cannot most of the time see it. One, somebody could be saying, I'm okay, because she lacks insight. But on the other hand, maybe she's feeling embarrassed or self-stigma to admit. Not even very serious mental health. Even stress itself, you can notice somebody with stress. I think it's still good to pursue that person. Because if it's something that will need medication and she lacks insight and we hold on for too long, it can be a problem. And I ask the church, if somebody gives you a feedback, there's something we call the Johari video. There's some things in ourselves we don't see. We appreciate. And you who is giving the feedback or telling somebody I'm noticing is also confidential unless it's self-harm. But I think it's good to pursue that person, including sponsoring for the consultation to whoever you're going to take that person to. Because they might be lacking insight. They're not even aware. They're not aware that they're not performing as before. Somebody just withdraws from the choir. And you think somebody has backslidden. It's not backsliding. Maybe there's something that is trying to work with, including the stresses of, just general stresses of life. So when we are talking about mental health, it's not a heavy thing that is about somebody who has major bizarre behavior, major depression, even very simple thing. Somebody who has been talking, all of a sudden has coiled, usually comes, people who sit in front, uone mtu ameanza, just going back. What could be the challenge? I think pastor is just good to pursue it, or also find out who is very close to that person, and you can trust that person, so that by the end of the day, we shall give some help. Instead of waiting until somebody completely is on the other side. Those still is treatable, can be given medication. Thank you for that question. Another concern? Or a comment? I think I can hand over to, yes, there's a hand there. Yes?
Okay, my question is, how about if somebody is suffering from a certain, maybe among those that were listed, and probably they're financially unstable?
Okay. Yeah, it's possible. Mental illness also is very expensive, especially, it's only recently even the insurances have started covering it. It has been a very difficult, even drug addiction, and you want to go to a rehab, and it's financial, somebody is not stable. That's why, one, we are encouraging all of us to have NHIF cards. Are we together? NHIF cards are good. But on the other hand, I think some of us who are providing services, we are in a position to offer pro bono sometimes, but by the end of the day, I'll still need to refer you to maybe a psychiatrist. So during my session, I'll be able to discover your support system. Maybe it's only some fears you had to tell somebody to support. People are good people. They are willing to support. But also I know a place like Mathare, I know you don't like the name. Mathare is a government institution, and by the way, it has even other services beyond the mental health, and you'll be seen with a fairer government prize. And yeah, I think we can handle it that way. Even the rehab in Mathare, NHIF card, can do that. So we are also encouraging people to have NHIF. I know an outpatient may not be paid, but don't die there because you are not financially able. These people you are seeing here, they are willing to see what is it. Instead of losing you, what is it that we can do? The problem, the issue between you and the help, sometimes with mental health, is stigma. Because you know it's very easy to say, I have diabetes and I don't have insulin. I'm schizophrenic, I don't have my medicine. And it is true. I don't know whether you are getting me. I usually get an injection per month. There are patients we give per month. And hana pesa ya kwenda kudugwa hiyo shindano. Akuja hapa atoe ushuhuda. Naendaga Mathare for an injection monthly or zero. Kube nakuaga wa huko. But if I come here and I say I don't have my high blood pressure medication, I'm telling you within a very short time before we leave the service, I'll be having money, somebody saying I'll sponsor for this month. So it's the issue of stigma and discrimination. But NHIF, but also, I hope I left, my number was on the screen, on the last slide. Somebody can call, we shall see. And for the young people, just a minute, for the young people below 24 and below, Kenyatta National Hospital Youth Center, it is on the ground floor next to the lifts opposite physiotherapy department. All services are free unless things have changed, except being sent to go for a test for drug if somebody is taking drugs. The rest, you just go, you'll be seen, you go home, you'll be seen, you'll be seen even by the best psychiatrist because government have the best. So is that okay for our children? You don't have to struggle so much. You can walk in. And you don't need really to book. If you find they are overwhelmed, they'll still give you a date. But if it's what we call a psychiatric emergency, nobody is going to tell you to book. You'll be attended to. You'll be given your medication. And that's all. Are we okay?
Yes, thank you very much for the insight and the learning that we have learned. I just want to let the congregation know that here in church, we have free services of counseling. We are a team of about 8 counselors, and others are joining us. So please, don't die with your issues. There are people who are ready, professional counselors, who are ready to work with us. So when you imagine of going to the psychiatrist and maybe you don't have money, in church we give free counseling, and you are all welcome.
Oh,
Thank you.
You hear there's an answer? Maybe only the psychiatrist issue. Let's clap for them. And maybe for the counselors, maybe I'll send some screening tools if you don't have. I'll send you for depression, for bipolar, for anxiety, for advanced childhood. I think I have quite a number of screening tools so that on a soft copy. So when you get a case, even as you're sending to the psychiatrist, you're able to say, we noticed in this depression scale, it's like this, because it's self-administered according to the way they are going to respond. And then you'll be able to refer as appropriate. Thank you and God bless you.